Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. My name is Steve Smith, and I'm your host. Got something really special for you. We've got a new partnership formed with John Deere Golf for Keeper of the Greens. That's a segment we're moving forward with in this one. It's this one's a ripper yarn. It's a little bit unconventional. There's a couple of laughs through it, so stick with it. You'll enjoy it. And if you're from all sorts of different parts of the golf industry, you will really enjoy this one. There's lots of facets to it. Like I said, a bit unconventional, an absolute sensational guest, and one that you're really going to enjoy. So come along with me for the ride for John Deere Golf, Keeper of the Greens. This is episode number 88. John Deere Golf are proud sponsors of the Keeper of the Greens segment of the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. John Deere Golf are committed to the industry, and I've got to be honest, that is why we've got this partnership. We've formed this partnership between the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast and John Deere Golf. It's because of their commitment to the industry and how strong that is. And this is part of how they're showing you, the industry, how committed they are. So I wanted to make sure that I partnered with somebody that cared about the industry, that are committed to it. So John Deere Golf will work with you to move your game forward. And the game, look, to be honest, we all know this. The game relies on your team's passion and professionalism, which is why you can trust John Deere for a wide range of advanced equipment and dedicated support. And we all know that that's very, very important to running a successful maintenance facility as part of a successful golf club. Since 1987, this is a little bit of information about them. Since 1987, John Deere Golf have built a tradition of trust and excellence on golf courses all over the world. And we know how big their brand is, which is why their commitment is so strong in golf. And I'll say it again, I'm just so glad to be able to partner with them. When you work where others play, you need to make sure you've got a partner that you can trust and keep your course in perfect condition. John Deere Golf can help with top quality machines and support, forward-looking technology, and their ongoing commitment to this incredible game. And you've only got to look into some of the technology that John Deere Golf are bringing to the industry. It is very, very impressive stuff indeed. Your local John Deere dealer has everything you need. Find your nearest John Deere dealer today at deere.com.au. That's Deere, D-E-E-R-E. .com.au. So make sure you check that out, guys. And like I said, they've got some incredible equipment that's being brought out to the turf industry. So you want to make sure you're getting in touch with the reps in your area. Go and find them at deergolf.com.au so that you can see just how good this stuff is that's coming out to make your facility a better place. Ladies and gentlemen, we're keeping it local to start this off. We're in Sydney. I've travelled out to the western parts of Sydney. Local to me, it's a little bit of a drive away. And to a friend of mine that I've got to know over the years, superintendent in the past of this golf club. We're out to Lynwood Country Club. Is it Lynwood Golf and Country Club?
It is Lynwood Golf and Country Club
now. Introduced to Matt Bailey. G'day, Matt. How are you?
Good, mate. Yourself?
Not too bad, mate. So what's the full name?
Lynwood Golf and Country Club.
Okay. There's a lot of clubs doing that now. Is that because you offer much more than just the essence of golf?
I think it's trying to break down that country club stigma.
Yep.
So our club's certainly a community club.
Yes.
With championship golf course that gets wet from time to time.
But, we'll go through that.
But yeah, so we're just trying to make sure that the local community feels comfortable coming to the club.
Yes.
And that was the main reason for the change. But everyone locally just knows us as Lynwood.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can drop the Golf and Country Club at some point.
And just be Lynwood. We're going out to Lynwood.
Yeah.
Because you really are a destination now for all things golf, but also the community that my drive out here, as I was saying to you before we pressed record, was a nostalgic one for me because I know this area very, very well, having grown up in the mountains, and my grandparents on my mother's side, they had farms and everything out the northwest at Cherrybrook, Dural. So we used to travel between the two, which meant driving through this area, and it was only farms. And I just drove back through it now. I haven't been here for a couple of years, and there's so many houses, little, I can't say little because they're rather big, but housing estates and land releases and shopping centres, and they're popping up everywhere where they never used to. There used to be a pub in between all the farms.
Yeah, the Etimoga, and that was it.
Yeah, the Etimoga and the vineyard with the horse out the front. It used to be the big rearing horse.
That's the one.
That's what I remember as a kid. It's crazy. So you're really a community-driven space now, and the club and yourself and everyone involved has worked very, very hard in that over certainly the last, 10 years, 5 years? I don't know. You've really opened up to more types of people, a wider demographic of people from very, very young to quite old. And I say very old, even though it's not a rude thing to say. You've got the whole spectrum of what people can do here. You just took me around, mate. I'm blown away by what's available.
Yeah, I mean, the Castle Hill Castle Hill RSL amalgamated with us about 10 years ago.
Right.
And that was when the main change came. So
Yep.
one of the first things we did was look at the club. Why aren't we getting the community in? Well, there's nothing here for them.
Yep.
So play equipment went
Yep.
straight in, and then it evolved from there. Play equipment's still there. We had the animal farm going for quite a while. Now we've got simulators. We've got mini golf.
Mini golf, the
driving
latest
range.
one.
So really trying to give everyone something,
Yep.
a reason to come to Lynwood. It's not just golf, but everything has a bit of a golf emphasis to try and keep on growing golf as well.
And you are growing. We were talking about the number of people you've had here. Take away the recent issues from time to time when you're underwater, and we were going to go into great depth about that. Pardon the pun. But your golf community has grown at the club. You have a lot of people. You have a lot of members that come here and play. You're well supported. The Pro-Am, certainly football players. I know local rugby league people and the like. You got lots of a wide type of golf-centric people that play here, really, haven't you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we did have some major flooding through 2022, and we've had floods either side of that as well. But the membership hung in there. They supported us. The club obviously put in a lot of support to them as well, so it went both ways. But from that 2022, golf's just grown rapidly, to be fair. And even with the most recent floods, our membership still stayed strong. It stayed over 700. And then we've got that community support for the club itself. And then we've got business support as well. So we've had the Parramatta Eels come out. We've had the Western Sydney Wanderers come out. We've been able to hold all of our charity events. We've had to move some dates around, but all of our charity events have wanted to hold in, and we're still growing that corporate and charity golf part of the business. So there's a whole range of avenues that we're trying to, I guess, cater for.
Yep.
But yeah.
And it's working.
It's working. The biggest issue I have is that I want to try and tick every box every day, and it's not quite possible. But yeah, we're moving in the right direction, and that's always exciting.
Very, very good, mate. Very good. Now, we've been talking already about the two sides of the business of golf here. And one of those is, this is Keeper of the Greens, obviously. John Deere Golf has sponsored it. And a key part of this is your time here. So let's really now step back to, you're a greenkeeper, you've been superintendent here in the past, you're now looking after the golf course, leading the team still, under a different title, albeit. Let's go back to the beginnings for you early on in your career, and I jumped down initially to, you and I had mentioned, I didn't know this, but you told me this a few years ago, that you knew my family before I knew you, because you were working
Your
at
dad was my boss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, your brother was my boss as well.
Yeah, that's right, up at IGA Blaxlands.
Yeah.
And so you knew them before you knew me in the golf world. So that was really strange when you told me that. I couldn't believe it. It was weird. But so, because you're a local.
Yep.
Ish to this area. You grew up in Western Sydney.
Yeah, grew up in Blaxland.
Yep.
Worked at Blaxland IGA for about 5 or 6 years. I think your brother was the store manager and your dad was above that.
Dad was overseeing 3 stores that the owners had. Yeah.
I didn't know them that well. Just checkout chick.
Yep.
Went in, did my hours and got out. And then, once school finished, I was basically taking a gap year, just working at IGA.
Yep.
And Dad was into me about choosing a career, and my sister was working at Panthers Leagues Club at the time. They amalgamated with Wallacia Golf Club.
Yes.
Had an apprenticeship going. I was always looking at landscaping or something outdoors, and she said, look, I've put your resume in, and you've got a job interview next week.
Wow. And that was for Wallachia?
That was for Wallachia.
Right. Is that still... That's not there anymore, is it?
Wallachia's there.
Oh, it is there?
Wallachia's there. It's had a few change of hands with ownership.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
So, yeah, no, it's still definitely there. Okay. One of our staff members is a staunch Wallachia man, so he's still playing out there a couple of times a week.
Yeah, because I know I remember they'd done work in my earliest years as an apprentice. They'd done iterations of the golf course, some changes under Panthers.
Yep.
And we had a big day there, a big greenkeeping event there. I'm going back to the late 90s, I think.
You had one of the Western Sydney golf days.
Yeah.
They did. I think we ended up doing about 5 or 6 holes. Brand new holes.
Yep.
And there was a master plan, but that just hasn't been seen through for many different reasons. But I was there during the second stage of that works.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So you started that was your apprenticeship. You went to Wallachia, and that was where you took on the role as an apprentice.
Yeah. So I went to Wallachia. Did 3 years under Matty Kennedy. Matty then took a job down at Port Kembla.
Yep.
And Lynwood was in construction phase and getting towards the back end.
So that's at about what? Early 2000s-ish, is that right?
08, 09.
Okay. Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
So, had the opportunity to come across to Lynwood under Marty O'Malley.
Yep.
And then, basically was part of the grow-in team. And I think within my first 6 months, we opened up the full 18. So the golfers were on the front 9 at the time, and we were growing in the back 9.
Yep.
So I was at the back end of that construction period, and then finished my apprenticeship and just carried on from there.
That was it. So let's describe a little bit for people. So Wallachia is sort of south of Penrith. It's sort of still along the Nepean River.
Yeah, so it's
pretty close.
Essentially, it's on the way to Warragamba Dam.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's it. Yep, and so you did most of your time there. And you come to here under construction. Now, this is a very different site. This is quite a unique site in a sense for a lot of Sydney golf courses because it's a links style, open course, very, very few trees, very open to the elements.
Very exposed.
Deluxe.
Very exposed to the elements.
You're open to the sun, you're open to the cold, you're open to the frost, you're open to the wind. There's not a lot here except there's no ocean.
Well, sometimes.
And yes, we will come to that. So this was a unique build, Graham Papworth design from memory.
Yep.
And you come here as the growing team, so it's not far from the Hawkesbury River, right next door, adjacent to Pittown Lagoon.
Yeah, so we've got Pittown Lagoon on one side.
Yep.
We've got a range of turf farms on another side.
Yep.
And then basically the river's on the other side of the turf farms.
Yeah.
So
it's open.
It is very open.
There's, like I said, there's not a lot of aerial vegetation, a lot of trees here. You've got low shrubbery and grasses and things around the outskirts of the perimeter of the course, and even some internal parts. Lots of low-lying waterways and that sort of stuff around. It's sort of a meandering style golf course in and around some creeks and drainage lines. And
the course effectively works as a drainage system for the Pittown Lagoon. So every part of the wetland feeds into another part. They're only a foot or two deep, so they work as a filtration system, and then everything leads out to the lagoon.
And this came from a move from memory. So I went to Tech with one of the apprentices from Kellyville Golf Club or Kellyville Country Club. I can't remember what it was called. And that's now where I think it's Rouse Hill Westfield or Shopping Centre or whatever it is now. So they did a deal back in I think it was the late 80s or something like that, or early 90s from memory, to sell up because that was going to be a big expansion of Sydney into the northwestern suburbs. And then they got the land out here that they could build a golf course on, new clubhouse, new site. It was just a relocation of the club, and then they gave it a new name.
Effectively, yeah. So I think Kellyville only owned about 7 holes effectively of a 27-hole facility.
Yep.
So Kellyville Golf Club is effectively a shopping centre now. You can still see some elements of the golf course.
Okay.
Straight across from the main fiddler, you can actually see some of the safety netting still up on that corner. But basically they sold up, moved out to Lynwood, and built a complete new facility. Changed the name. The name comes from the heritage house that's on site, Lynwood House.
Yep.
And we just carried on from there.
And that's it. So you come to here. So that's given us an idea of where we are and the lay of the land. Views to the Blue Mountains and beyond, above them. And like I said, you're very, very exposed to the wind. I'm not a fan of the wind, having grown up in the Blue Mountains, but you guys are as exposed as we are up there. And it rips So whatever we get up there, you get down here, which is very unusual because a lot of the Western Sydney doesn't really get that. It's not as exposed, I've found, certainly to the foothills of the Blue Mountains at Penrith Way. But up here, it just hammers through. And I think it's because you're further north that it comes through the Grose Valley a little bit more.
Yeah.
Which is very, very open.
Yeah.
And the Grose River runs at sort of east-west, perpendicular to the Nepean. So... and into the Hawkesbury. So it's really quite wild with the weather. So you come here growing. This is a big deal. An apprentice over at Wallachia, you've done some work, but this is a brand new golf course from scratch. You're young. It's all new, nerve-wracking, and Martin O'Malley's an established superintendent in the industry. You got a lot of knowledge and certainly a wealth of knowledge there to learn from and pick from. Was it I don't know what I've never grown in a golf course from scratch. What was that like? Was it hard work? Was it long days? What was it like?
It was messy work.
Okay.
There's a lot of chicken fowl that needed to be mulched up. Most of the hard work, to be fair, was done.
Okay.
All the irrigation lines were already in, so it was really just a case of just keeping your moisture up, keep your nutrition up, and almost a hands-off approach. Let the cooch do what it does.
Okay.
You give it the right conditions, it grows in rapid.
Yep.
So we grew in the 13th fairway from basically a line planning into a full coverage in about 6 weeks.
Jesus, fair income.
It was. I'd never seen anything really like it, but Marty was adamant that we were going to achieve that goal.
Yeah, wow.
And we did. So, bit of time, first day, rough mower. They've just thrown out a whole heap of chicken fowl, and it was my job to go out and mulch it. So I was basically blowing out feathers for the next 2 weeks, but it did the job. So
things you do what you need to do in different ways. Like that's probably not a normal thing that someone will go, if you're going to go and spread that type of stuff, go out and use a rough cutter and just mulch it to pieces. Yep. But it works, right? It's a method and it works.
Well, you can't use it at a golf course per se when it's in play because it's just too messy. But the turf farmers use it. I mean, 2 weeks ago, all the Hawkesbury was just the smell of manure. And now you look at their plots and they are lush, they're green, they're growing, and it's just a sound practice.
You know, that actually it reminds me, and I didn't even realise it, but I remember at Wentworth Falls we were looking to get a way to fertilise our fairways en masse because it's an expensive exercise, right, to fertilise fairways, and the smaller clubs in the mountains didn't have a lot of cash and still don't. But we got hold of chicken manure.
Yep.
Exactly, I imagine what you're talking about, because when you described it then as feathers and all sorts of stuff. So I don't remember who we had to spread it, as I knock everything around on the table here. I don't remember who we had to spread it around, but I remember that in amongst the chicken manure, there was lots of feathers. Every now and then there were chicken's feet and a few little bits and pieces on the golf course. Because you were saying that you guys weren't an active golf course when you were doing it. We were. Right. And we had quite a few question marks from people as to what was going on and where that had come from. But I think they got it obviously from Chicken Farm.
Yeah.
And I remember it going out reasonably thick, but the fairways, like you said, because it's in that almost a blood and bone part of the chickens in the chicken manure, that it just goes ballistic. The nitrogen that's available in that raw manure from chicken manure is out of this world, right? Goes berserk.
The turf farmers do it every year, and you can see it also. You know, if they've cut a crop and they need to bring that pad back in, you see a big summer storm coming. An hour or two before that, you will get a wonderful smell of manure come across because they're just trying to use the conditions that they've got, and that's what you can do in the Hawkesbury. It is still very much a rural area. It's farmland,
primary producing,
and you do what you can.
And there's not. I think that's a good thing because that's we're recycling stuff, right? It's manure on one side, you're using it to feed grass. The other side, it's a sellable product in turf. It goes on. It goes around. It's a cycle of use, right? Nothing's really going to waste. It's a primary producing thing.
Works for us.
Very good. That's there you go. Very interesting. Very good. Now I'll go a little bit further and let's talk about what it was like to you got the course open. Tell us a little bit about that. After all that construction period, then you're open for golf. What's it like seeing people out here finally at play on something that you've been part of building?
in some ways heartbreaking, because now that pure turf is now getting hacked up and you've got golf carts driving across turf. So you certainly see what a golf course can be when there's no play, and how picturesque it can be.
Yep.
And then you actually get to see how much damage a usable golf course actually cops. So in some ways it was heartbreaking, but the members out there, they loved it. They'd been waiting patiently for many years. They'd lost their access to Kellyville, so they were kind of in between clubs. So they were absolutely chomping at the bit to get out there.
Sure.
I mean, I was only a fourth-year apprentice, or just come out of my time, so I wasn't really paying a great deal of attention to the golf operation.
Yep.
I was just trying to cut straight lines and make sure my temp mixes were correct, and that was pretty much it. You know, your perspective changes as you start to understand the business more and more and more.
Yeah. Yep. Interesting. It's and then you grow in the team, because correct me if I'm wrong, from this point on, you've been at Lynwood. Mm-hmm. Is that about right?
Yeah,
so
once
you've been here since the golf course was being constructed to today.
Yeah. There's one other guy on the staff that was actually at Kellyville.
Right.
So Crofty, he's been with the company essentially for 37 years. So he was at Kellyville for 20 years. He's been at Lynwood for 15. So he has plenty of stories.
That's huge. Yeah. Far out. He would have seen some change. That's unreal.
Yeah, absolutely. So between him and I, we've pretty much seen everything at Lynwood.
So there's no more to know. You know as much as anyone knows, you and Crofty.
Yep.
And I say that because I don't know the guy.
Yeah.
But you guys, between you, know everything about this particular golf course from start to now. There's nothing more that anyone else could know more than you guys. So that's a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, and we still lean on Marty O'Malley as well.
Sure.
He's still local. He's still in the industry. So if we get stuck with anything, Marty's always happy to take a call and help us out.
Yep. So. Lovely guy too. Very, very nice guy. Still, like you said, he's still in the industry and very, very knowledgeable individual. Now, mate, I'm going to pause that now because I forgot to do this part to begin with, because it's not on the phone and I'm used to doing it on the phone. So I'll edit this little bit out. So we're going to start again with Steve Super 7, just for a bit of shits and giggles.
Sounds good.
Mate, it's Steve Super 7, and we start this with a little bit of fun on the podcast. 7 quick fire questions. I don't think you've really listened to the podcast before. You probably don't have the time, mate, to be fair. So you may not know some of these questions, which I like. I'll shield them from you.
I've got to be honest. I had a quick listen last night to see what I was walking into.
No, all good. All good. Let's do this, hey? Let's see a little bit of fun. All right. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunset.
Sunset?
Sunset.
You're on the East Coast. No one says sunset on the East Coast.
I've got the Blue Mountains there. The sun going down over the mountains. Nice. It's spectacular. I used to love... We do renos a little bit differently here, so we don't have those really late afternoons where you're still sitting on a pro core, but we are... When we did have renovations and you're still here 6, 7 o'clock,
yep.
It was... There's a calmness about a sunset, where a sunrise, you're go because you have to stay ahead of that golfer. Sunrise, cool. Kicking back.
I like it.
May have a beer in hand.
May or may not have a beer in hand. That's even better. Very good. All right. Number 2. I think I know the answer to this one. But anyway, dogs or no dogs allowed on the golf course?
Dogs.
Drama?
Drama's here. Well, he's not here as often as he used to be. Just to clarify, Drama is the dog's name.
I'm glad you said I was about to do the same thing. Yep.
For all those Entourage fans out there, he's named after Johnny Drama. But, dogs are fantastic.
Yep.
For so many reasons. And he's gotten the team through a lot of struggles.
Yeah, okay.
You can be, I don't know, a dog's a great balancer.
Yeah.
So, fantastic.
Good stuff. Number 3, stripes or no stripes on fairways?
We've had to go to a half moon setup.
Okay.
Mainly for timing. I don't really love the rim and cut for a link style course.
Yep.
I think tree line courses and things like that for sure. But if I had the machinery, I would try and go all one direction.
Yeah, okay.
And have no stripes. But haven't got the machinery to do that.
All the staff.
All the staff, all the time. 20 hectares of fairway, it takes a little bit of time.
And sometimes you don't even have the grass. But we'll talk about that. They don't make them that work underwater just yet. Grass growing or machines working. Green coloured sand or natural coloured sand to repair divots?
We have to go natural coloured sand, but we have dyed it before. If we had the time.
I'm going to jump in now. Hang on. You have to go natural coloured sand. What do you mean by that?
Well, we don't have the time to dye it effectively.
Okay.
If we had the time and the resources, then I would colour it for sure.
Because it is an exercise. I've done it. I know it is.
We go dormant.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's an awful lot of white sand that you see at the end of winter. So
Fair enough. Okay, that makes sense. Number 5, favourite grass variety for you personally?
Probably going to go with Santarena, the
Okay.
Cooch. It's just... It holds its colour pretty well through winter. It's always performed really well out here.
Yep.
Being on this site, I haven't probably had a great deal of experience with other grasses.
Yep.
But that one's the one that's always performed.
Cool. Number 6, preferred style of golf course. Now, I'm interested in this one. Preferred style of golf course, Cape Wickham, Kingston Heath or Elliston. All quite different in their own way. But which one of those do you prefer?
I'd go the Cape.
Okay. Have you been there?
No. I've got all these photos of other link style golf courses, and I just kind of take little bits of snippets of those and try and introduce them to our course. But link style golf course is the traditional style of golf course.
Yep.
So I can't wait to get over to Scotland and get down to Tassie as well and play all those kind of really exposed golf courses and just see how badly I play.
Didn't see that one coming. Very good. And the last one, mate, this is I find this out of curiosity is really good. Number 7, if you could walk around, not play, just walk around any golf course in Australia tomorrow, which one would it be?
I went down to the President's Cup down at Royal Melbourne.
Yep.
When you got 50, 60,000 people walking around, you don't really get a feel for it. So that'd be one I'd probably want to go around again and really take a good look at it.
Yeah,
because that place has an aura about it. Even when you were just walking in, it just had a feel to it. So that'd probably be the one that I'd want to walk around.
Nice. Can't go past that one. Royal Melbourne. Very good. Very good. Okay, now we can edit this little bit out as well, and we go back to the middle of the conversation. I was like, it's almost started a little bit halfway through the podcast because it had.
I'd keep all of this in.
You know what? Maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that just for something a little bit different. I am a little bit rusty on site, but this is good. I'm enjoying it. Now let's go back to your career, mate. We go back to the golf course. We were talking about your the time here. The golf course is opened. You've got a wealth of experience and knowledge, and so for you, how did you progress through the roles here? We've established that this is your place that you've done most of your greenkeeping career at, right? So, how did you go? What is that?
Cleaners are still at work.
Okay, we are early. Hang on, let's just talk about how good this space is. This is the simulator room, right? In the clubhouse.
So it's called the green room. It was a function room that was too small for big functions and too big for small functions.
Okay, that makes sense.
We just couldn't.
Essentially a useless space.
Yeah, it just wasn't getting any traction whatsoever. So I pushed pretty hard and managed to get the RSL club to sign off on putting in 2 golf simulators.
It's well decked out, and these things simulators are unreal. They're great. The modern world of sims are pretty special in golf.
Once again, though, with the simulators as well, we've got TrackMan in, so we've got all the high end tech, everything you need from a golf perspective, and then because we're trying to always be that family offering, community offering.
Yep.
We've got all the multi-sport stuff.
Oh, because you got there's like you kick balls and stuff at the thing as well at the screen.
Or Dad can be playing St Andrews on one side and the kids can be throwing balls at zombies on the other side. So,
really?
Yeah. So we get a lot of dads looking after their kids and parenting, as you say. And
that's my version.
Dad's playing golf and the kids are on the other sim and they're playing soccer. They're playing.
That's cool.
Foot golf.
I didn't know they could do that.
Yeah. So there's about 15 games on there.
Yeah, wow.
So, yeah, just try to always... I mean, I'm a young parent.
Yeah.
I'm probably when I was in the GM role of the club, I was always making myself the target market.
Yep.
So what do I want to do on the weekends? How can I entertain the kids? How can I still have fun at the same time? And that's kind of where all the ideas came from.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Golf simulator's great, but my 5-year-old's probably not going to enjoy it that much. Well, you might enjoy throwing a ball or kicking a ball. Let's get that programming on the other simulator, and
that's cool.
Away we go.
Very cool. Yeah. Okay, cool. Awesome. I like it. It's like I said, it's a bonus, but it's a great space to be in. Just to do, we're recording a podcast in here, and I'm looking at this and going, how decked out are these? It's magic, fantastic. So I've lost my train of thought again. This is wild. So we're talking about your time here. How did you progress through your time as a greenkeeper? You were qualified. You became qualified working on course. The course is opened.
Yep.
Did you moved up the ranks? Obviously. Did you get to superintendent, assistant super, and then is that how it progressed onwards?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. The club, when it was member owned, when it was the Kellyville membership coming across, they really struggled financially. Mm-hmm. Could never really recoup the overspend that they had when they were building a golf course. Building a golf course, clubhouse, you're never going to quite stay on budget.
Yeah.
So they really battled along. So a lot of guys that left the club in the maintenance facility were leaving for better opportunities, but also because the club couldn't really progress. We didn't have the budget to keep moving forward.
Sure.
So I basically Bradbury'd it all the way. So became a qualified.
Nothing like giving yourself a rap.
Yeah, well, look, it is what it is,
Let's call it Johnny on the spot, right?
Hang around long enough and they'll make you the GM. But yeah, so just kind of made my way into, I think I was assistant under Marty O'Malley for about 3 years.
Okay.
The club was in...
But you would have learned a lot through Martin because he's a very experienced individual, right?
Between him and Matty Kennedy.
Yeah.
And the fact that I still speak to both of them pretty much weekly is a real big asset to what I've got in my hands. So,
and a testament to your relationship with those guys too.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, it was. I think it was probably about 3 years under Marty. He then notified that he was going to be moving on. He had an opportunity to go to kind of in the stadium sports turf and stuff like that. Okay. So he was still local. He literally jumped over the fence.
Yeah, right.
So that was helpful. Yeah, moved into the superintendent's role in a caretaker position, I guess, for about 6 months.
Yep.
The board at the time, which was still a Lynwood board, were happy with what I was able to produce in that 6 months, offered me the full gig. Had to move from wages into salary, which was a bit of a knock. But and then just stayed in there. It was probably another 6 months, and then the conversation around amalgamation was becoming stronger and stronger. And then the RSL group came on board probably in my first 12 months, 18 months.
So I'm going to jump in there because that's when you and I kind of first met. So this puts it around 2013, the back end of 2013, I think, from memory, if that's how it bounces with you, because I had just lost my job, and Katoomba went broke, and then and you and I had met at a industry breakfast.
Yeah, would have won a Panda's breakfast down there at Country Club, a coffee club.
Yeah. So we caught up there, and that's when I met you, and I just sort of finished and was sort of still catching up with people, and you were telling me about the new super at Lynwood, and I was like, wow. And then you were talking about this new possibility of things happening on course and potential course improvements on a bit of a larger scale. So that's when we first met, and I got a real sense from you about the possibility of things being done, and the club was going to potentially change, and things might be really starting to move in another better direction again. And as it turns out, it was with the Castle Hill Group. Is that right? Is that what they're called? Castle Hill Group?
Castle Hill RSL Group.
Yep.
CHRG. Okay. There's been a few name changes.
Lots of letters.
We don't mind a name change around here. But yeah, I think I would have been 23, 24, got put into the supers role full time, and then
at Lynwood, no less. The golf course had been open for how long?
Would have been 5-ish years by then, something like that. I don't know.
23 years old, superintendent of a 5-year-old golf course. It's a multi-million-dollar build in Western Sydney. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, lucky you weren't around, because I don't know if they would have actually put me on if you had highlighted those things. But jumped into a redesign. Redesigned 3 holes. So we managed to put the whole team back together. Paul Gow was brought in by the Castle Hill Group to be part of the design team, I guess, and oversee it as well. But brought back Patworth, brought back Fleming Golf. Mark Parker came back in and kind of assisted me in overseeing the build as well. So we put the exact same team that built the place, put them all back in, and jumped into a redesign, which was a great experience for me as a greenkeeper. And the members still discuss the changes to this day. So,
and they always will.
Always will.
Always will. Nothing quite like changing something that started out one way, and every time someone does something, it will be a topic of conversation forever and a day.
It keeps the beers flowing in the sports bar.
Indeed. So that, again, I go back, I'm thinking about your story, and you've got the time that you were here under construction, and now you're going through this at the top job, not so much at the bottom now, where you've got a redesign on your hands, a brand change, if you like, a potentially different management style coming in, a whole new turning of the page for Lynwood, and you're within that.
Yeah.
How did that sit with you? Were you on? I don't mean to say it. Were you on board with it? But I suppose obviously you were. But was it a good process?
We had a general manager at the time, Greg Edwards, who he came on after Brendan Ellum, and Greg got the amalgamation conversations. There'd been discussions around it prior to with Brendan.
Yep.
But Greg must have pushed that little bit harder to get it done. Castle Hill Group came in. We probably couldn't have got a better suitor.
Yep.
Greg worked really hard to make sure that there was a whole bunch of requirements that, staff weren't going to be made retrenched in the first 12 months. The membership were going to be looked after. And it nothing seamless, but it was a pretty good amalgamation. I've seen some other amalgamations happen, and it can be pretty dire.
Yeah, pretty brutal, right?
Yeah. So
it's like a hostile takeover.
Almost. And the membership handled it fairly well.
Yep.
There's always going to be people, they feel like they're losing their club.
Sure.
But the culture overall has remained strong throughout. The Castle Hill Group has always remained supportive. The golf membership are going to see support go in different parts of the business and always question that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we're still here. We're still a strong club, and we're growing.
Yep.
So there's
into that how you choose, I guess.
There's hindsight's 20/20. There's things that everyone would have liked to have done differently, but overall, it was a very positive amalgamation.
And I stand here today, and you've taken me around this morning, and I look at all the things that have happened, and I think to myself, well, that wouldn't have happened. In a sense, or it would have happened differently, or who knows? But
I think that's who knows? Who knows what would have happened?
Yeah, and we'll never know that. But at the time that this was happening, I mean, it probably, like you said, the way that things were going for the discussions to be opened up about an amalgamation was clearly something wasn't going so strong for the club, and they had to change.
They built this club 10 years too early.
Yeah,
is probably the best way to put it. So you spoke about how much residential building has popped up since the last time you drove out here.
Yeah. That's only 2 years.
Yeah. So you think the club had to sit here on its own 2 feet for the last 15.
Yep.
And this kind of development's only really been coming in the last 5. So the club built something incredible, but they just built it too early to be able to recoup the spend that they did. So it's no one's fault. Like they were probably just too just too early.
And I often think about this because this isn't uncommon, because I think it had to happen the way that happened, because we think about where they were as a club in that location, and that was gone.
Yep.
But it's taken 15 years for that advancement of the housing developments and the people and the population to build, and the infrastructure. We've got the light rail or metro rail, whatever the hell rail you call it, coming out this way now. All of those things happen in time. They were earmarked to happen.
Yep.
But if the club wouldn't be able to afford to come out here now because it would be too expensive. Exactly. So they have to come out in those times because that's when you could afford the land, but they couldn't afford to exist. That's the challenge, for affording to exist for the 10 or 15 years until the population reaches.
They could afford to build it. They couldn't afford to operate it.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well said.
So every decision that every manager has made and every staff member's made was based off whatever information they had at the time, and it was the right decision. So I can't begrudge anyone for moving on or taking other opportunities. Sure. The club continues to exist, and
it's doing well.
Doing well.
In whatever iteration you want to call it, we are here now. And like I said, you've taken me around this morning on the golf course and given me a tour of inside the club and outside the clubhouse. And this is a great establishment now.
Yep.
I can stand here and say to you, mate, this is impressive. From when you showed me around in those early days, which is now over 10 years ago, to where the place has come and where you've come, this is awesome to watch.
Yep.
This is a really cool place to be and to see what's going on.
It's growing.
So
that's
it's
the
doing
best
well.
part. It's growing.
It's all going in the right direction, which is what matters in a golf club. Because if you're going the other way,
it's not much fun.
Bad things happen. And I can attest to that because I don't have a job anymore as a superintendent. And yet here we are. So why do I keep losing my train of thought? We keep getting sidetracked.
This is the problem with having questions, mate.
And I've got some written down, but we go down rabbit holes. You were talking about the club's rebranding, if you like, or in a sense, with the new amalgamation with Castle Hill Group. So times have changed, things have moved on. We've got a rebirth, if you're liking, of the club, and things are looking up and much more positive now. That phone is actually interfering with this. Did you hear that?
No, I'm just trying to run some irrigation while we're talking here.
Come on, the superintendent always on the job. Now let's talk about your time as super, because I don't know how long it was after that. Things have changed. So you've worn two very different management leading hats here at the club over the last 7 or 8 years, I guess.
I guess. I think I was the straight super for 5-ish years.
Yep.
Dates always escape me. Years roll into 1 year into the next. So I have to go off fires and floods. It's the only way I can remember anything. So
that's not a good way, but I know what you're about to tell me.
2019, where effectively we've run out of water. We can still pump.
Yep.
We don't have any issues there, but we had to make deals with landowners next to us to buy parts of their water license because we just didn't have any water left. It hadn't rained for God knows how many months.
Yeah, that was dire because they played the Australian Open here at the Australian Golf Club full of smoke from the bushfires surrounding Sydney. I remember it.
So we were watching those fires every single morning. We were basically just mowing ash off the fairways and the greens.
Wow.
The temperatures, like they'd say the daytime temperature is going to be 44, 45. It'd only get to 37 because there was that much smoke. The UV was,
fair dinkum.
it was actually in some ways quite easy to look after bent grass because there was absolutely no humidity and the daytime temperatures didn't have that piercing sunlight on the greens. So, but that was a really challenging time to be out there having to hand water tees, hand water greens, running no cycles whatsoever. And then 2020 hits, and we're cheering because the forecast says it's going to rain.
La Nina was coming thick and fast, and we were like, "Is it really going to come and be that good to us?"
Yeah. So February 2020, on the Friday, we're all basically having a beer in the shed, going, "How good's this?" It's actually starting to rain, and then we turned up to work on Monday, and I've had to come a different way into work because the roads were closed. And I thought this is a bit strange. And as I came in on the angle, my lights bounced off. And I was just like, what is that bouncing off? I couldn't figure it out. Get to the maintenance shed and half the golf course is underwater. And I've gone, don't know what to do with this one.
What is that?
Yeah. So first things first, messaged all the boys and said, don't bother coming to work. I don't want you guys to see this. Plus you can't get into work because the police were still closing all the roads off. And that was the start of a completely new journey, really.
So let's put a little bit of context here because we're having this conversation out on course where you just showed me some of the floods and some of the lay of the land.
Yep.
We were talking about how through my career, I'd had some rain periods through my career as a greenkeeper up in the mountains, but generally speaking, most of my career, the majority of my whole career of greenkeeping, from start to when I closed in 2013 was generally dry.
Yep.
We had a couple of periods of heavy rain, but nearly all of it in the 90s, early 2000s was bushfires in the Blue Mountains, ravaged Western Sydney, ravaged the Blue Mountains. Everyone knows that from the 90s to 2002, I think it was, more or less, where it was horrific. And I hadn't seen the Nepean River flood, apart from when I think it was 11 years old. I think it was when it flooded just before the 94 fires. But it hadn't happened. Yep. We had algal blooms over and over in the Hawkesbury Nepean, and things were pretty ordinary for a long period of time. And my whole career never really saw what floods were in Western Sydney again. I remember them as a distant memory. And I was saying that to you out here, that from my career and then moving into your time, I'd lost my job in 2013. You've started yours more or less at the similar time as a superintendent here at Lynwood. And the course has existed on this floodplain, this flooding site. It's why you can't build houses here.
Yep.
It's why it's farms. It's existed here without being in a flood.
Yep.
You more or less were worrying about how you could maintain a golf course in this high wind, high heat, high sun, high UV area with your water licenses and not knowing what a flood could or would do to this particular location with a golf course on it.
How it would react, Yep.
So you get to 2020 after what was a pretty bad 2019 of dry.
Yep.
You're fighting for water allocations and how you can keep things going.
Yep.
The rains are here, as the McCain ad used to say, Marge, and everything goes underwater. What do you start with, apart from what you just said, you're telling the boys not to come in? What was your head thinking about how long would it last? What do I look for? How do I do this?
Yeah, so one of the first phone calls would have been down to the turf farmers.
Yep.
So we've got a pretty good relationship with the boys down there at Evergreens and Dad and Date. So they've got a bit more understanding of the areas. They've been on this land for ages.
Yep.
So bit of a chat with them, and they were kind of saying, yeah, look, it should be 4, 5, 6 days. It'll move away. It didn't.
And it's a week, right? That's a long time.
Yeah, well, I mean, the flood basically got up to about 9 or 10 metres. I can't remember what height that first flood was, but then it sat at 8 metres. So it started to recede and then just sat and sat and sat. And we're like, what is going on here? Something's wrong here.
It wasn't going anywhere.
The turf farmers were perplexed. I was going down there. So we've got a creek line that's supposed to basically bleed out from the lagoon out to the river, and it just wasn't really doing what it needed to do. It was all going a bit slow. So the waters finally did get out. They sat on the greens for far too long. So it was more a case of how do we bounce these greens back? How do we get a surface? Had Fleming Golf come in, they priced up, stripping everything back, re-leveling surrounds, doing a full, basically like a
full rebuild.
Almost, yeah. And looked at that price and went, oof, that's,
We need to somehow work with that, with a different number.
And then I'd actually, and shout out to John Deere here, I actually just maybe a year or two prior gone to the John Deere Classic.
Right.
Actually got to play in the Pro-Am, played Deer Run.
This is over in America,
In America, yeah.
In the US.
Illinois, outside of Chicago.
Yeah,
so
right.
Managed to get on a wonderful junket with the team there at John Deere and went around with a couple of guys from New Zealand. And
wow.
So, yeah, we went through all of the desert courses and then ended up in Chicago, played in the Pro-Am. And I met a whole bunch of superintendents from Canada.
Okay.
So while I'm sitting there with my hands in my head looking at floodwaters,
wow.
I'm thinking, wait a minute. These Canadian blokes get metres of snow on their greens every year. It's not exactly the same as a flood, but still.
Still, it's under something, right? Under wet.
What do they do? How do they turn theirs? Because they've got like a 6-week turnaround from basically snow to growing conditions. So I had a chat with them, and they're like, look, just strip the surface back by just verticutting, get yourself an avenue, seed into it, see what happens. If it doesn't work, well, you can always, get Fleming in and strip it back and go for it. It worked unbelievable. We had a playing surface within kind of 10 weeks, 12 weeks. We had golf back out there and we're away.
Wow.
And the fairways looked spectacular because we didn't have any golf for a while. So that cooch had this wonderful period where it just had no wear and tear on it. So the course bounces out, get the greens up, and we get another 9-month period of great golfing conditions.
Good weather.
And then we get hit with another flood.
So before we talk about a second flood, let's talk about the grass types that you've got here on course, because unlike anyone that I've interviewed before in this series of Keeper of the Greens, you have more or less remained at this golf course and seen it from go to way. So I haven't had that break in everything. Your career is Lynwood. You are Lynwood. Matt, you are Lynwood.
Don't know how that sits with me, to be honest.
So just tell us a bit about the services. So this will help us understand, or help convey just what you're dealing with to try and get a recovery. So you've got what type of grasses on your fairways, tees, surrounds, and greens?
Yeah, so we're a conquest couch on the fairways. So we've got 20 hectares of fairway.
Big fairway space, right?
Big area.
The first fairway is like a run. I think I remember going down there thinking it was like a runway.
1.6 hectares, 1.8 hectares.
It's big.
It takes a bit of time to cut.
Yeah.
Centerena collars on the greens and Centerena T-tops.
Okay. Yep.
And then a blended bent grass mix. So it's called Dominant Extreme.
Yep.
It has changed through each flood. I've made some tweaks, but it's a mixture of 007 SR 1150 or something like that, and then a Thai. It's always performed really well on the greens. We've always been able to get a really good surface. But then actually after that trip to the US and seeing how these bent grass golf courses in the middle of Arizona desert were performing, we actually started to increase the amount of 007 in the greens.
Okay.
Just to try and give us a little bit more assistance during the summer months. So the 007 is supposed to handle that heat and that drought condition a little bit better. So with every flood, we've taken the opportunity to actually increase the amount of 007 in our greens.
Right. Okay. Cool. Okay.
So,
So that gives us an idea of what you're dealing with. What's Conquest like? Because I don't know. I was saying this to you. I don't know what Conquest is like on mass. I could only get it at a period at Katoomba because I couldn't get Centerena. So
you can get a really good surface out of it, but it's a hungry grass. And when you've got 20 hectares to feed and your budget isn't massive, we tend to run it fairly thin.
Yeah, okay.
I'd love to be able to run a lusher surface at times, but
you could get some chicken manure. I heard there's some locally supplies.
Yeah, someone said that's good stuff. Don't know how the members would go, but it can be a good surface, but it is a very hungry grass.
Yeah, okay, cool. So that sets us up with an understanding of the golf course. So round two, fight with Mother Nature.
Yep.
The second time flood in 2020. Mm-hmm. This is the back
2020. Yeah, 2021 was in an April, I think.
Okay.
So we had a February in 2020.
Yep.
One thing that we did do with 2020, because the waters just weren't behaving the way they should, and all the locals were basically saying this is wrong. The RSL club, and this is where the RSL club is, this is their greatest support. They are
Castle Hill.
Yep. They've basically said, look, we've got this company we use for hydrology reports. Let's get them out and let's see what we can do. So Molino Stewart come out. They do a full assessment of pit town bottoms. They do a report. Unfortunately, it took 12 months to finish off. So we're into the 2021 flood.
Right.
But then we get the report and it basically says, look, if you make changes here, which was all kind of downstream stuff, they said you should be able to, get the receding waters that should happen.
Right, okay.
So did some work with some local landowners, and that creek now behaves the way it's supposed to.
How everyone thought it should have been behaving.
How it has in the past, yeah.
Okay.
And there's things with council that we've worked with as well to try and get people grants to be able to, clean out all their drains and stuff, because that's a cost. And it's a substantial cost when you have to try and find where those drains are.
And for a long time, those drains weren't being used, as we just talked about, for a very long time.
Yeah, flood's one of those things. You don't think about it unless you're in it.
Yep.
And you look at the golf course now, we're only 8-10 weeks out of a flood, and we're not thinking about it at all. It's one of those things. You're in it, and you're in it.
And then when you're out of it, it's like, you've forgotten about it. Like I said to you, I couldn't believe how long it had been since the most recent one, but we'll get to that. So, there's work there required more broadly in the local area to help.
Yeah, it was the pit town bottoms area that needed to be restored from a drainage perspective. Okay. So 2021 flood comes in, it behaves slowly again.
Yep.
We have to go through the same process again, strip the surfaces back, seed into them, get another amazing result, and we're back into it again.
And that's cleaning off silt and layers of sludge, and the golf course is covered. It's more or less brown, right?
It's many different colours of brown. Yeah.
And these are the photos that we've seen in a lot of the greenkeeping newsletters in the industry, photos that have been sent around.
Yep.
And number two, you're thinking, what have we done to get two, I imagine?
I've got to be honest. When number two came through, I was like, sweet. we can actually improve on what we did last time, because there's a number of things that I did where I'm like, won't do that again.
Yeah, okay.
Here's an opportunity to try it out straight away. So we actually turned it around slightly quicker, got a better strike with the seed, went a slightly different, slightly higher rate just to make sure we get a quicker coverage.
Yep.
Because the conversation, one flood, it's like, let's get the surfaces back, let's get them good. This next one is, we've got to get golf out here as quick as possible because the business is copping a hit.
The business is struggling, yeah.
So some of our decisions were more around just getting people back on course.
Okay.
So temporary courses we used, we were cutting in greens onto what I call a cooch green, which is literally just cut into a fairway.
Cut a fairway,
plug in a hole, and members can play a discounted rate and get out there and do something. So the 2021, pretty much a 3-month turnaround again to get the full golf course back on. And we were sweet, never thought about a flood again. And then 2022 comes along.
And quite possibly put everything else it to shame that you'd had before, right?
Yeah. It progressively got worse and worse. Yeah.
And I laugh in jest, I suppose, in a way, because it was completely devastating for so many regions in so many ways.
Yep.
Up and down the East Coast, not just here locally. This affected on a massive scale, but also it was so much deeper for you guys. I mean, where in the past it had covered, like you said, initially half the golf course, and it was there or thereabouts. You got most of your greens, I think 12 or 14 greens are covered, but this was different. Yes. 2022 was different.
So I'll get my months wrong here, but I say we had 5 floods in 2022 because one of those floods had 2 peaks.
5 floods in 1 year.
Yeah, so I think
5 peaks.
We had COVID going through that period as well, which was good fun. Yeah. So, we had an April flood of 12 metres. So every green on the golf course apart from the putter.
And this is 12 metres above the normal river level, right? This
isn't sea level.
Yeah. So it's high, right? That's 3 more metres higher than your previous flood.
Put it this way: at 12 metres, our 5th green is 7 metres underwater.
7 metres underwater.
Yeah, so the bottom of the golf course sits around that 5 metre mark above sea level. So you go to a 12 metre flood, you're talking 7 metres depth at our lowest point on the golf course.
That's like
2 stories, 3 stories.
Yeah, it's over 3, I think, or
deep.
Thereabouts. It's nearly 3 stories.
It's deep. So
whether you're under a metre or 7, because now I think you'd shown me an aerial or a drone photo or something of a boat or someone on a boat going across what was the golf course at some point.
Oh, plenty of those. Yeah, we had people parking jet skis on the putting green and all sorts of stuff. So, but the worst part was I managed to get out on. So we were effectively, all the roads are cut off.
Yeah.
But come through, the bush tracks.
The way that you know how.
I was able to make some deals with some locals to be able to access through their properties walking in.
Right.
About a 1.5 kilometre walk. I'd be able to walk in, I'd get onto...
Did drama come with you?
No.
Okay.
No. As soon as he could get back, he was back. But no, not during those periods. But I was managed to get on site. So there's actually, I've got a video where I'm talking about, waters are receding, but it's not going to get much better than this. So I think it went from 12 metres back down to 8. Then another East Coast low came through, and that was 13.96. Our clubhouse sits at 14.2. So we had a metre deep through the maintenance shed. I was able to get into the maintenance shed,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, jump through a window. So all the computers were up.
On the desk, just enough, right?
Just enough. Yeah, nothing like seeing your office chair floating around your office. But
wow,
a lot of machinery lost. Entire cart fleet lost. We moved it up from the cart shed, thinking we'd be fine in the maintenance shed, and it just kept coming and coming. So 13.96. We sandbagged the clubhouse, and basically just prayed that it didn't get in the club, because that would have changed the whole conversation.
Yeah, sure.
So 13.96. We actually called in a favour to the local police. They put a police boat out to see if the club was dry. So there's a photo of a police boat not touching our putting green, but sitting on top of our putting green. So,
like I said, I laugh. I shouldn't laugh, but it's.
We can, because we're here.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, at the time, obviously, it's a different feeling. But I'm just thinking about taking me around the course this morning again, and in my head, I'm picturing all of those things that you're saying, the shed being under a metre of water. I parked the ute down by the shed this morning and we went from there for a drive out. I know the drop off the back of the shed to behind, is it 15?
14.
14th green.
Yep.
Which drops right down, right to the golf course level from the practice range and those sorts of things. I just can't fathom the ocean. Like we talked about, you don't have the ocean nearby.
Yeah.
You had the ocean nearby in all senses when that was happening.
We're one of the lowest parts of the Hawkesbury, and to be fair, that's where golf courses probably need to be built because, the land's cheaper.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, so then we get the golf course back. Water's got away so much quicker. We've done the work on those creek lines. So the water gets out.
Made a difference.
From 14 metres, it gets out faster than an 8 metre flood.
Yeah, wow.
Get in, clean up, get ready to seed. Another flood comes through. So we have another flood. Didn't put seed down for that one. Then I think we move on to July. July, we have another 13.96 flood. Everything goes under again. This time we moved everything out of the maintenance
because you
shed.
knew now.
You learn. So, and then one more nuisance flood in September, and then we're away.
So now we're calling them nuisance floods.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So anything under 8 metres is just a nuisance.
And this is, I know I've spoken in the past to Glenn Gibson-Smith at the Glades when he was working at the Glades, and they're very, in a sense, and I don't know a lot of all the intricacies of the drainage around the Gold Coast, but they don't need the inundation that Sydney needs for you guys to flood, because the Hawkesbury is quite a large catchment in a sense, and it's a large river system. But I know the Glades in and around the Gold Coast region, provided they get lots of rain, it can flood regularly and not so deep. But here, we're talking up to near 14 metres of inundation around the area. Like I remember you also showed me in the past, we went down to, is it the halfway hut?
Yeah, we call it the halfway house.
Right. You were saying that the water, how far over the roof of that does the water get? Yeah,
well, the base of that basically sits at 5 metres.
Okay.
So you think 9 metre flood, you're well and truly into the roof.
Yeah, up to the roof.
And then add a bit more. So we were using the halfway house as a bit of a guide with the binoculars to try and figure out the depth. But then once you lose the roof,
you've lost everything.
Then we're using the trees beyond that. Once you lose the trees beyond that, then it's just...
Well, that's the other side of the river, the valley, isn't it?
Well, you're starting to use your shed as your marker. So...
wow.
It's pretty impressive, really. If you take away the whole fact that your golf course and everything you've ever worked for is underneath it, it's actually pretty impressive to see.
It's the region, the local landscape doing what it has done for eons, right? And we're just experiencing a moment in time, a very small snapshot of what is capable of happening.
We had, effectively there was 30 years without any major flooding. We had some little bits and pieces where areas of the course would back up with the lagoon, but we never had greens go under. So to have greens go under was a shock. And then it almost became the norm. In 2022, it was every time you saw a cloud, you're like, here we go. But through all that time, I mean, the maintenance team just hung in.
Yeah, because that would be difficult on everyone's morale. I mean, after one, I never had to deal with floods. I only had to deal with dry. But I can't imagine, and I think I remember saying something similar to Glenn, I just can't imagine trying to keep a team together, mentally, motivated enough after one flood. But one is enough to think about. The fact that you've done so many over a number of years, but also that period where you did 5 in almost 1 year. How did people come back to work? I don't know if I'm asking that as a rhetorical question. Maybe I don't know how you do that.
Yeah,
is there maybe you can't verbalize it? I don't know.
I think when you're in it, you just all right. There might be some Hawkesbury mentality in that, where they're just you cop it sweet and get on with it.
Maybe.
We were able to tweak things as well. So, there's no need for the guys to come in at 5:30 in the morning when there's no golfers out there. So, you change their hours. You might work them shorter days. You keep the fridge well stocked. The maintenance teams, it's a tight unit, and it is in most sheds as well. Like, there's a mateship there. So they didn't want to let each other down by not putting in an effort. the membership was unbelievably supportive. The Castle Hill group, unbelievably supportive. So there was never any real... There was inklings through the industry of people saying,
Sure.
Lynwood's going to be closing down. There's no way, blah, blah, blah.
I'd heard all of those.
But internally, there was never any discussion about it. The board, I was getting prepped to do like a presentation where I thought I was going to be fighting for Lynwood's future.
Yeah, right.
And I didn't even have to talk.
Wow.
The board basically just said, yeah, sweet, let's get on with it. Like, we knew what we bought. We knew what we were getting into.
Yeah.
We are here for the community. Let's get on with it.
Wow.
And so it was actually quite frustrating. The most frustrating thing was the fact that people would be calling you up going, heard you closing down, heard you closing down. It's like, you need to be in the meetings I'm in because it's not been said.
And that's not helpful either, right?
There's clubs out there that probably wanted to get access to our, 600-700 members. It would help them out.
Yeah, for sure.
There was a bit of that going on. That was frustrating. But overall, the membership, the support from them pushed the workers along.
Yeah.
And then the workers getting on with it kind of pushed the membership along. They were kind of supporting each other. It worked really well. And we've got a really good process now. So,
and as a club, everything strengthens, everyone tightens, you sort of all bind together a lot tighter and stronger, right?
The culture of our golf membership is so strong. A lot of clubs will have those handful of whingers, that table of knowledge that thinks they know everything.
Yep.
Have 9 floods. I guarantee you those guys don't hang around. And you don't have to worry about it. The members that hang in there are the ones that genuinely care about their club as a community.
Yeah, yep. So. And on the back of that, we're talking about a thriving community club. Mm-hmm. The community, locals, they're coming here now because you've become a centre of the local community, and you supported them, they supported you, and that's worked around both ways, and now you're seeing that relationship grow and continue to grow.
Yep.
Families are starting that may not have been families back then as well, young kids. And
I'd like to think that many young lovers have come to Lynwood, and I don't know where I'm going with that, but anyway.
I think we can see where you're going. I'm stumped. No, but I see all the people in this community have endured that. Mm-hmm. So there becomes this internal, local, supportive relationship.
Yep.
And so everyone grew stronger out of that.
Yep.
Because it's diabolical to go through. I haven't been through it, and I don't think I'd want to.
Yeah, it's. I wouldn't want anyone to go through it, but it's pretty amazing to see what community spirit actually is.
Yeah, well,
people talk about it, but until you're actually in it, I mean, fires in the mountains. You see all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But I
suppose I've seen it in a different way. There you go, fires.
Yeah. Give me a flood over a fire any day.
It's funny what you're used to, right?
Yeah.
I grew up with fires.
Well, me too.
Well, you did as well in the lower mountains.
Yeah.
But I just can't imagine flood. Maybe because I've just got a thing I don't like water so much. But anyway.
Didn't you move to the beaches?
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's another story. Let's leave that alone. And I've always followed the Manly Seagulls.
There's another issue.
Work that out. Well, another issue. You're a one-eyed. How have you not got the Panthers here?
Have
they come here?
No. We've got a couple of guys
Let's throw a pug at. Why aren't the Panthers coming here?
I'll have to make some calls.
Because you're a one-eyed, proper Panthers supporter, aren't you?
I'm a winner, yep.
I'm a winner. Hang on. Now, we're talking about generational things. There was a time when Panthers were for a long period.
Yeah,
it was 91.
Yeah, 91.
91, but they won back-to-back?
No, we lost in 1990 to Canberra. And then we got them back in 91.
Okay. They were the ding-dong battles. I remember that era when I was a kid.
But then we were rubbish until 2003. Pulled one together, and then we're pretty much rubbish.
Unlike the Seagulls, we're sort of a decade at a time. We're the only club, I think, that's won a premiership in every decade.
What's that next question you got down?
Anyway, let's go. But you have won 3 on the trot previously.
We're going okay.
So we're all good. All good. Now, in this time, you've worn a couple of hats within the club. So I've already talked about that. So I know you're running the course. You were superintendent. Floods are coming. When did you change up your roles within the club structure? And you were general manager for a period?
Yeah, so moved into the GM role. So we had the 2020 flood. Castle Hill obviously liked the way that I handled that. And so in early 2021, CEO came to me, sat me down. I thought this is only going one or two ways. And he goes, what do you think about Matt Bailey, general manager? And I'd given it absolutely no thought whatsoever, but thought, yeah, right, I'll have a crack. Not really knowing what the role was.
Yep.
I don't think any time when I was general manager, I was that traditional general manager either. You know, Castle Hill's got a huge engine behind it, marketing teams, finance teams and stuff like that. So I was really about just business development and trying to grow that culture and really be a face of Lynwood in that GM role. And then we had all the COVID, we had all the floods. So I was kind of bouncing between assisting the maintenance team with rebuilds and then also trying to assist the membership with staying at the club.
Just going to point out, that's a really good time to jump on board as GM, right? In the middle of a COVID and a little middle of the floods, and you really want to take on a business and run it during that. You didn't? Did you think about it?
My son was born in 2019. My daughter was born in 2020. Yeah, there was a bit going on, a little bit going on.
You've done very well to take that on at that time and continue the growth of the club, as we've talked about. So there's a lot that I've seen you taken on board. We've had conversations in and around that time for over the years. Like I've said, to watch you go from superintendent and moving into the role when we first met, like I said, and seeing you then get into the role of GM and running the business and navigate. Yep. Lots of people struggled to navigate any type of business through those periods.
Yep.
You're an inexperienced general manager, and I'm not being rude.
No, I had no idea.
I'll go inexperienced. You've been a superintendent, and essentially a lot of your experience is in the greenkeeping role, not running business, not managing companies. I'm wedging you into this really difficult time, and you've taken the bull by the horns. You've mentioned young family at home. There's a lot on your plate to deal with.
Yeah.
Were you able to separate yourself a little bit from the golf course? And you probably didn't want to. You probably weren't that type of general manager, like you said. How did you find moving out of the golf course and into the clubhouse a little bit, but also having your hands, understanding that you still wanted the course to be a certain way and to improve in a certain way?
I think that was the hardest thing. And I had a lot of conversations with Matty Kennedy about it. I'd still go out on course and have a look around. I'd catch up with our superintendent at the time. And just kind of, I was trying to be guiding.
Yeah.
But
sure.
I know at times it wouldn't have felt that way because you kind of, I know what works.
Yep.
I've done it before.
You're Lynwood.
It was quite frustrating not having the full control of the golf course. But then also, I had ideas, I reckon all superintendents have ideas for the club.
100%, mate.
Well, I had an opportunity to actually put some of those in place.
That's an interesting point. I like that. Yeah.
I'm really proud of what I was able to achieve in the general manager's role. Do I think I was ever a actual GM, a traditional GM? Definitely not. I was able to fit a hole that Lynwood needed and had the support of the maintenance team, and it had the support of Castle Hill and their management team to be able to kind of create this general manager role. We called it a general manager role, but I don't know. I was just there to help be the face of Lynwood, help the membership, drive a really positive story of what Lynwood is going to be, what it is, and getting the membership through that, especially that 2022, something I'm really proud of. We had to completely flip our membership offering just to keep members involved because we flooded in July. Our membership renewals are in July. I'm getting members to sign up without a golf course. Here, join our golf club. We don't have a golf course.
We don't have a golf course.
But join. So we were able to, we had a huge support from local clubs. A whole heap of golf courses around us were offering up tee times. We were creating packages with other golf clubs. Like, there was a lot of things behind the scenes that we were having to do for our membership that we were getting support from other clubs to be able to achieve. And this
goes back to that local support, community
Absolutely.
support, right? Everyone's working together in the challenge of that time.
Don't get me wrong, some of those clubs were just sitting on you beauty. We get access to their members, we're going to get them out here, they're going to sign up.
Sure.
And some probably did, and sweet. That's great. There's enough golfers out there for everyone to be strong. It's just a making sure that your offering is strong enough to be the one they choose.
And the messaging is right, and getting to get an understanding of what you are.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
And you've driven that. And I like how you said before, every superintendent's got ideas of what they want to do, and you had an opportunity to take that and go for it, right?
Marty O'Malley and I used to sit back in the maintenance shed, and we'd have Friday afternoons. We'd be there for 2 hours talking about ideas we had for the club.
How I'm sure that I'm glad you said that, because I was in a similar thing. Maybe it is that every superintendent has those ideas bouncing. I'm sure you do, because you're out there in it every day, and you're wondering how you can get more people in, right?
Yeah, you're passionate about your course, and you want it to be, the best golf course it can be. For that to happen, you need to have the financial support of the club. The club has to be financial to support the golf. Golfer needs to be strong to help the club. I don't know. There's something about being a superintendent. You are all in.
Oh,
you
yeah, 100%.
All in. You're 7 days a week. You're running irrigation at night. You're waking up at night checking pumps. Like, you are all in.
And those that aren't, I find, don't last long. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, it probably is. I probably don't know that many in the industry that aren't all in. Maybe I just don't have the time to associate.
Sure.
The guys that I do know, they are...
They're all in.
Yeah. And their families have to be too. That's probably something. The strain on superintendents is massive, especially when you get a really hot summer or you get a really humid summer. You don't switch off. You're always thinking about it. There's pressures there. You're out at lunch with family or whatever, but you're checking your phone for moisture readings or something like that. Like, that's something that I don't think gets enough understanding from the membership and probably management as well.
Do you think, and let's go down that rabbit hole, because I've got a young family now with 2 little ones under 4. You've got 2 that are not much older than mine, because we're talking similar times.
5.5 and 4. Yep.
And you're in that. You're in the middle of floods. You're in the middle of COVID. You're in the middle of a new role GM, trying to get a club where young family, new family, like everyone, kids have health issues and all sorts of stuff. And I know you've had your fair share as well. There's lots of time of your headspace that needs to be here at work, and whether you want it to be or not, it is. Yep. I wonder, what are your thoughts on, and you touched on it, do you think that has a big role to play in the longevity of superintendents in their role? Yep. That headspace, not being able to be at home much, and it's always here. That's just the role, right? That's the job.
You chose it.
And to get that family support is a big deal.
Yep.
That's a battle always, right?
Yeah, it's my wife's been incredible. She has some choice words at times when I'm having to do too many hours that she feels are too many hours. But a lot of the time you want to go in there and do the 2 hours on a Saturday arvo, because otherwise you're going to be in a bad headspace for the rest of Saturday arvo, because you don't know what's going on. So I think superintendents that leave the industry generally leave the industry because they don't feel supported, whether that's family support, whether that's management support.
Yep.
It'll be different for each, but people that are able to be supported to build a good team around them. I've always been really lucky. I've always had really good assistants who have bought into my work ethic as well. But if you're out there on your own trying to look after a golf course, it's pretty lonely. It's pretty tough.
Burnout, deluxe?
It could happen quickly too.
Yeah.
You could slap together 3 or 4 75-hour weeks because the temperatures just aren't, you don't get that day off where it rains, and you're just having to punch in these massive hours. It drains you quick. Yeah. And there's probably not many people around you that will really understand it, because it's like, oh, it's just grass.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not, it's turf for one, but but yeah, burnout in greenkeeping, I think, is a massive issue that probably isn't talked about enough.
And you're younger than me, so the reason I asked that, and it's obviously just come up while we're chatting away, is our industry, we talk about mental health, whether we talk about it enough or not, I'm not sure. I'm going to go with probably the fact that we don't. I don't think that many clubs, and I'll speak from my own perspective, I don't think many clubs support their ground staff, their greenkeeping staff, their superintendent well enough because they don't really understand some of the things, and I don't think they take the time to want to understand some of the things. I think sometimes ignorance is bliss from a board perspective, from a membership perspective, and you can be battling within your own headspace the workload that you've got on now, the workload that you know is coming, and the workload that you think is coming. And there's anxiety pressures there. There's lots of things that you're dealing with in your own headspace. And then at the same time, you've got your home life, which is your real life. This is the reason you go to work. It's to be at home so that you can support your family and do that. So they can support you, but it's also they need you. They need you to be at home. And that's a delicate balance, and it has its ups and downs, and it has its waves of work.
And I think that's where communication is king. I mean, I try to communicate with my maintenance guys enough. So if I'm taking a morning off, I explain, why I'm taking that morning off, what still needs to be done. You give them, the run sheet, and you can come in a bit later, but those little sleep-ins here and there just might recharge you enough to get through the week. But having a really supportive maintenance team is a huge step forward. And then family life, I don't know, greenkeeping is just one of those things. It's hugely it's a mental game as much as a physical game, because you're up against the elements. You're up against every element. You're dealing with a living thing.
Is that mood lighting you turned on?
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? The lights go down as I'm talking. Beautiful. But yeah, I don't know. Greenkeeping's it's certainly a lifestyle.
Yeah, and it's the game, right? That's the game. That's the beast we're in.
You see a lot of superintendents move into other roles that stay in the industry. So they want to be in the industry. They love the industry, but they've had enough of the time and effort. So I don't know. I love it. I've moved out of the club general manager role, which is the more traditional role. I've moved into another, I guess, less traditional role for Australian golf, but I'm now GM of golf, so I oversee the entire golf operation. Don't have to worry about gaming machines, don't have to worry about catering, don't have to worry about bar. So anything inside the club, I'm here to support, but not part of my responsibility anymore. That's certainly helped, but still, you still put a lot of pressure on yourself to make sure all those things under your management are working as well as they can. So now you're in that position where you're back outside. This is why we're having the conversation on the John Deere Golf Keeper of the Greens, and I've got to throw that one in there. So you're back out leading the team that looks after the golf course. What's it like to go back out into that role? Love it.
We're champing at the bit to get back out there. It's like, oh, this is me again. I found it.
I feel more comfortable in boots than lace-up shoes. Suit pants is just not my go. I'm still turning. It probably looks funny to some people that come into Lynwood and I get introduced as the GM of golf and I'm covered in mud because I've had my head in an irrigation box or something like that. But there's something about greenkeeping. You can turn back, you can see the changes you've made, the improvements you've made. You've got that mateship. You're back in a team. GM role is pretty lonely at the top. You're responsible for everything. Everyone thinks that you have to fix everything. I may have just put that pressure on myself, but greenkeeping's where I need to be. But I love being able to kind of assist in growing the entire golf operation.
So you kind of got, whether I say more say is the right word, but you're assisting in the direction of the club and how they.
I never want to run in a dictatorship type of way. I want people to feel valued and be able to put their opinions forward. But growing the golf operation as a whole is great. And the role I'm in now, I get a better understanding of, I want this machine today. Well, actually, let's look at the figures. There's a reason why we can't get it today. Like, I've got a better understanding. I've had that opportunity to be able to see the entire business. So superintendents get their CapEx budget, get their spray budget, their wage budget, and away you go. Where I'm developing those budgets because I have to see it against the whole business. It's good fun, but Maintenance in the morning, golf operations in the afternoon.
Busy times.
Yeah.
Does the I've seen it before. We've seen it around the place, and you've probably met people that are superintendents that have gone into GM roles, people that are doing both roles in a little bit like what you're doing, but in a more traditional sense. They're literally on both hats.
Yep.
Is it hard work running the sort of a both sides type of thing?
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, you talk about a bad work-life balance when you're just a greenkeeper. You're kind of completely rissoling your private life by doing both.
Yeah.
And that took a toll on me. I could feel it in myself. My wife could certainly see it. Even managers at Castle Hill could see a change.
Yeah. Right.
I like to move things forward quickly. I like to see things changing. When you have to sit in meetings and discuss something 5, 6, 7 times and there's so many different players in that conversation, it became a little bit frustrating. Where greenkeeping is a super, you sit down, you talk with your assistant, you talk with your team, you go do it.
Yep.
Where this is... The club game's a little bit slower. I understand why, but I'm a doer. I like to get in there and do things, so it was a little bit frustrating at times.
Has it been good experience for you
fantastic.
as a super and growing your professional life?
Yeah.
To be able to see that side, work on that side, get more of an understanding how GMs work and clubs function, the business has to function, all of those things. Has that been helpful?
Kind of for me, getting that taste of the GM role was great. While I was in it, I probably didn't see it as much. So when I've been back on the course for 9 months now, more or less wearing both hats with the golf operations, but I can understand why certain conversations went in certain ways, why decisions were made in certain ways. It's good to have that knowledge and a general manager's role down the track. Once I get the golf course to where I want it, which is probably 5, 10, 15 years away, but a GM role down the track is probably something that I would like to go towards.
Yep.
But for now, really excited about just getting this golf course back from another flood this summer, getting it as pure as it can, and just continue to build that golf operation.
Yeah, okay. Awesome. Let's talk about the golf course as it is today, right? You mentioned before how quickly we forget about a flood. I totally forgot that it was how long ago?
Yeah, so we had a flood in April, and then we had another flood in June. But
and I totally didn't know that. I thought it was last year.
Yeah. So
it's ridiculous.
These ones were pretty frustrating. They took a bit of a toll on me because the flood in June, we only had 30 mil of rain at Lynwood.
Yep.
So it was a pure Warragamba Dam flood.
Because we did see that on the news, that it was Warragamba was spilling, but most of Sydney didn't get heaps of rain, right? Because the Warragamba catchment, people probably don't really know unless you look into it. It's all upstream from here. We're at the bottom end of the Hawkesbury and Nepean catchment, and Hawkesbury, Warragamba Dam and the Cordo and Avon Dams and that are sort of at about... Warragamba particularly is at sort of the bottom third of the whole catchment because it goes from the Blue Mountains all the way down to Goulburn.
No, it's huge.
Right the way down to Wallandilly, I can't remember the other river system off the top of my head, out to Cox's, out to Lithgow Way and all that. It is significantly extensive, the catchment area.
We had 30 mil where we were, but we were watching the radar, and I think at Mittagong they had 250 mil.
Yep.
We knew we were gone.
And that's down. You were all downstream of that, right?
We're playing golf 4 or 5 days after that event happened.
Right.
Full well knowing that we're going to have to pull the golf course down that afternoon. Beautiful weather. Golfers are out on the golf course.
But it was coming.
And we knew that the flood was coming. The turf farmers are moving their gear up. We're pulling all the markers, all the bins, everything back in, just putting our flood program in place because we knew it was coming, even though I think we had carts out on the golf course and we were getting ready for flood.
Wow.
So that was a tough one because it
didn't happen the way that
it wasn't our water, so to speak. So I know Sydney. There's people be listening to this going, "Oh no, Sydney was wet all winter." I'm like 100%.
Yeah, but not like this.
A lot of it was really coastal fringe type stuff.
Yeah.
And that weather system, 200 kilometres away flooded us. So, but we've learnt so much from every flood recovery. We've got the immediate environment prepared now to take that water away faster. So the water only stayed on the course for 4 or 5 days. Hosed off the greens, sat back, gave them a day or two, aerated them, and I think we may have brought them back in at 4 mil the first flight. So we were able to get everything back on pretty quick. So we're now gone from 3 months stripping surfaces closed, for 12 weeks to now open within 3 weeks.
Once the water's gone, you're back out and play within 3 weeks.
Yeah, so you basically let the site dry out. We probably would have been a little bit quicker. The greens were ready to go. It's just that it was winter. The cooch, there was no air temperature, so the place wasn't drying out quick enough. So I'm pretty confident if we get a flood in summer months, we can probably turn it around in, a bit over 2 weeks.
Wow.
You're talking spring renovation closures.
Yeah.
So that's something we're having to really educate the members on now. It's not a 3-month closure anymore. We've learnt a lot.
Yep.
And we're able to turn it around a lot quicker. So
that's impressive.
Floods are going to happen. They're going to be more frequent for us because of the development around us.
Yeah, lots more hard surface, right? We're talking about this.
It's a lot more roads.
Because it's traditionally for a good lot of 10, 15 kilometres in any direction was forever farms.
Yep.
And now it's nearly all there's probably half of it now is hard surface that it wasn't before.
And it's only going to get worse in some ways. I mean, we're great that the development's coming.
Yeah, of course.
Club gets more people.
Yep.
But the amount of rain that's now going to be needed to flood South Creek and Mackenzie's Creek will be less. But our processes are in place. We just grin and bear it.
Yep.
Mini golf's there now. Simulators are in the club. We've got other offerings here now to make sure while we are closed for that 2-week period, the club's here. There's still reason to come to Lynwood.
Yep.
And it's all about diversifying that business.
And that's a big thing. So we're talking about the offering. So, but before we get to that, I just wanted, so in terms of getting those greens back, like your air rating, let's talk a little bit of the greenkeeping type of stuff for people. So your Conquest fairways, you're punching, I think you were saying 19 mil solids out there recently just to try and open it up. We've had some pretty wild winds and traditionally in this part of the world in the mountains is dry air. You're talking less than 30% humidity.
Yep.
It's blowing. So that just speed of the air movement's going to help dry things out. You've got temperature coming soon. That's going to help. What do you do for those greens and to get it right? What are you doing to the surfaces specifically?
Coming out of flood, it's generally high pressure wash.
Yep.
So you're basically just putting your nozzle on jet. Wash that silt off. We used to squeegee it off. We don't do that anymore. That was causing too much damage to the crown of the plant.
Right.
So literally just squeegee it off. High pressure it off.
Yep.
Leave it for a day. Run the Pro Core over it, so 12 mil solids. Leave it for a day. Get the spray card on there, get a fungicide on there with some nutrition. Pretty much just see what you've got from that point.
Yep.
It's get the mowers back out there. And obviously walk behind mowers, raising your height, slowly bring them down. But 2 quick fire fungicides, get your nutrition up, and the greens are good. And then during our summer growth periods, we dust weekly.
Yeah, right.
So it's about 6 tonne a hectare. So it's a really light dust, but do it weekly.
Yeah, that is a really light dusting. Yeah, okay. Yep.
But doing it weekly throughout that growing period, we actually put on more sand than we would doing a major renovation.
Yeah, right, okay.
And then we run the Ninja tines, so or the Samurai tines, whatever they're called, the 5 mil core.
Yep.
We run those every 4 weeks, and we do an 8 mil tine at the same time. So a double line. So you get a deeper aeration and then pulling out a core.
And then pulling out a plug.
So we haven't done a major renovation for 5-6 years.
Yeah, nice.
And with flood, adding that layer
that
of
makes
silt,
a difference, right?
We still haven't seen too much layering in our surface.
Wow.
The dusting, we haven't really seen any leaf disease.
Yep.
So the programs at the moment seem to be working well. And the members cancel out flood. They get pure surfaces for 52 weeks. There's no 15 mil core. There's no dumping the sand on top.
The old school way of blocking it out for a couple of weeks.
And those processes work, don't get me wrong. Especially on older greens, you have to pull out as much product as possible. But for us, it seems to be working well. We're pulling out more product throughout the year, frequently doing the small ones, getting the dusting on it. It's working for us. The members are happy with it, so we'll roll with it until it doesn't work.
Works on all sides, right?
Yeah.
From a golf course perspective, one of the questions I do like to ask is because I love the environment, I love the landscape, and we talked about the views out there, and it's a spectacular place in the afternoons and indeed the mornings. Very open, not many trees. But what's a spot on the golf course for anyone who's looking to come and play Lynwood and experience it? Because it's a really unique golf course. It's a very link style course. We talked about it, open to the elements, and you do get breezes quite often in nearly every afternoon, don't you, that pick up and really change the way you can play the golf course. Big wide fairways, lots of different approach angles to the greens and sort of a really entertaining, I call it an entertaining golf course to play because I enjoy it myself. What's a good spot on the golf course that you like to go out there? You might have the nice view or it might be a bit near the water body. Where's the location that you really enjoy on the golf course specifically?
Ninth tee's probably the pick. Up around Lynwood House, it's the highest point.
Yep.
It's a little par 3. It's the green's kind of almost like a amphitheatre around it. You've actually got the music from mini golf playing in the background, so it's a bit like
live golf.
Yeah, but that gets you your best vantage point.
Yeah, okay. Because you see the whole property, right?
Whole property, yeah. So get a nice sunset up on the 9th.
And it sets nice out behind the hills, behind the mountains, doesn't it?
Yeah. No,
good golden colour that happens right out there.
You get some really nice. We've put the drone up a few times of an afternoon and the shadowing on the golf course.
Nice.
It's ninth hole's probably the pick of it. And it's just a good fun hole too.
Yeah, great little pass through, water to the right.
Yeah.
And play around, and like you said, you got a bit of live action in the atmosphere.
Who doesn't love live? It's great.
Love it. And Lynwood House, incidentally, I want to drop it in. That house, because I talk about this as a reference point with floods, right? I think we're saying it's around the early 1800s, I think. Yeah. Is that right? Something like that?
I think it's the third house built in the Hawkesbury area or something. So there's a sign out the front. It might be 1823, but I could have made that completely up. So...
Okay. But it is very old. It's old. What I like about it is that I've said it to you and I say it to a lot of people. If that was let's say that it was the third house, it was very, very early on, built in the Hawkesbury, right? These people knew how to prepare. What they were dealing with, and they knew that from dealing with the local Indigenous people as well. A lot of them had Indigenous people working with them. They used their experience of the land to know where the flood levels would come up to. That house is, what did you say, about a foot higher than the clubhouse or something?
Yeah, I think the clubhouse is about 14.3. Lynwood House is about 15.
Okay, so
yeah, it's the absolute highest point of our property.
And it does not go underwater, and it's been there for 100 and...
Yeah, it hasn't gone under in our lifetime.
Yeah.
The biggest flood that the Hawkesbury's had, it certainly goes under. But with Warragamba Dam, I don't think anything could happen. But
sure,
those flood levels were pre-Warragamba. So, but yeah, no, it makes sense. Build the house.
Pretty impressive.
Build your main facility at the highest point.
Pretty impressive.
It's genius.
I think they knew what they were talking about all this time ago. Now, quickly, mate, just to talk a little bit more in closing out about the club. You talk about golf offerings. It is a golf-centric space. It's a golf club. But you have so many different ways of getting people into the sport now. You've got this mini golf that's recently opened up. It's kicking backsides. Got to moderate my language a little bit for the kids, for the PG rating. But simulators here where we are. There's lots of different ways to get into golf before you even advance out to playing 18 holes of golf, which is a great model for you guys here, really, isn't it? It's working.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're trying to bring anyone into golf. So we've got senior clinics and ladies clinics that run through the week, and we tie those to, like, social events. So the ladies clinics is coffee and cake afterwards. Just so that they have that social aspect to it. We've then got our junior academy as well. So there's opportunities for any kid in the Hawkesbury to come to Lynwood, learn golf. Doesn't matter what, if you don't have clubs, not a problem.
It doesn't matter.
We've got clubs for you.
Come and experience a golf and get into it.
If you're an elite golfer, you go to into the elite squad. You represent the club in Eric Apley, major pennants, whatever it is, because you've got driving range facilities, you've got the simulators.
And you've got lights on the driving range. How late do you open the driving range?
9:30 at night. We close it up.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So in winter, you can still be out here practicing after work hours and stuff and not worry about because it's got lights on it.
Yeah, we've got some tragics that come out here and park their car behind the driving range, flick their high beams on, and away they go. So, yeah, we're trying to attract anyone to golf. I mean, golf's awesome. It's a great game. A lot of parents these days are starting to worry about head injuries. They're learning more and more about concussion. So there's a gap there where these kids would have been playing footy, AFL, even soccer.
Yeah.
Parents want them to be in a sport. We're trying to make golf a bit of a team sport, so all of our junior clinics are a squad-based.
Okay, that's interesting.
Parents want to do one-on-one stuff, go for it. You can buy one-on-one, but anything that's in our academy is all team-based. We try to get them to go out on the course and play together. We try to make sure that we really push that team mentality, because that's why my son's playing soccer, because I want him to make friends and be in that team environment.
That's an interesting point. Yeah,
but I've signed him up for the academy for this year.
Yeah, right.
So, Dad needs to retire at some point. he needs to become a pro golfer. So, anything that we do in this club is, number one, got a community thought to it, and number two, how can we tie it into golf? So, mini golf's a perfect one for that. You're going to have people playing mini. Anyone can play mini golf. Look, the way it's designed, it's got two different hole positions. One's harder than the other.
Yep.
The yellow course, the ball feeds towards the hole. So these kids that go out and play and they've got no idea on golf or anything, they will finish most holes in 3 or 4 shots. They'll probably get a hole in one. There's a couple of holes out there where it almost feeds directly into a hole in one. Yep. So they have that experience.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Get them into mini golf. Enjoy mini golf. Dad goes, all right, well, let's go try the simulators out. They go in, try the simulators out. Let's go to the driving range. We're trying to feed everyone towards playing that golf course and just giving them a pathway to do it.
That's really interesting. And I'm going to leap now to this one, because this to me is a challenging point, as I know you know, in our industry of greenkeeping, is getting people interested in the career of greenkeeping. Do you think that I got into greenkeeping because I was playing golf as a kid, lived next door to a golf course.
Yep.
It seemed like a one of those logical possible paths to get into greenkeeping. Golf being as strong as it is, do you think our industry of greenkeeping and all the challenges that we have, do you think that we have opportunities to leverage from young people being in the sport, playing golf, understanding about what they're... How do we get more people into greenkeeping? You've told us already, mate, you're thinking outside the box in a lot of what you do. You've changed careers, in a sense, into different sides of it. I love how your mind works of thinking of things, but I'm seeing our industry still falter in getting young people in. They've closed down Richmond TAFE for offering a greenkeeping. There was 3 courses or 3 groups of greenkeepers when I was an apprentice, and that's where I did my time. I think you might have probably, I don't know, did you do it at Richmond or was it gone by then?
It was still going at Richmond, but Matty Kennedy said don't, head up to Ryde.
Yeah. So as an industry, we're struggling to get people in. Do you see a possible connection from young people getting into the sport of golf, because there's potentially more, certainly here locally, but in a broader sense? How do we do that? How do we have to think outside the box to get people in? Because it's challenging. You're trying to employ people.
Yeah.
I know that you've had your struggles over the years. I know everyone that I talk to across the country. It's not just localised to Sydney.
Yeah.
How do we change this? What have we got to try and do? Because I don't see our industry working hard enough personally, and I'll just say it because I'm starting to get sick of sitting on the sidelines and doing it. That's hence why I have the podcast. I know that I've had a bit of cut through with that. I've had people that are fledgling into golf and they go, I've never thought of greenkeeping. I might consider that or look at that, or some of them have done it and moved on or whatever. But that's part of the reason I started, because we struggle as an industry. So I throw it to you on the spot. I don't know whether you can answer it or not, but is there links through young people getting into the sport of golf, and what else can we do?
We changed things a little bit because we were struggling to get staff, and I kind of took the American model where they get a lot of cheap labour, shall we say, to come in and help them during their growth periods. So I kind of took that and kind of spun it a little bit, and I put out, we've got an agricultural college in the Hawkesbury, and I know the turf farmers get a lot of casual work through there, so we tried to go that same model, come and do 4 hours, help set up the golf course, and then you can bugger off to university after that. So they do a 5:30 to 9:30 shift. We ran with 4 casuals. We were expecting to get agricultural students. I didn't realise that university was connected to the IT university in Parramatta. Ended up getting 4, I don't know what they were. They were IT students, essentially. But Manish, Pratul, Moak and Shafam rolled up for job interviews. And I went, all right, bugger it, let's go for it. And they were awesome. They were international students from India, and they were incredible. They were here, the first week they couldn't get to work, so they went and hired a car so they could come out to work because their car wasn't ready yet.
Wow.
They worked that summer with us. They came back. 3 of them did the next summer with us. And when we first flooded, they'd finished up. They came out to help us tidy up because they felt so bad that their golf course had gone under. So that got us thinking, all right, we're going to pick up our full-time staff members by getting summer casuals. So every single apprentice that I've had in the last 3 years has started as a summer casual. Come in as a summer job, try it out, see how you go. If it works for you and it works for us, there's an apprenticeship available. So I think 3 or 4 of our apprentices have all come from that. And something we've just done really recently, a lot of our cart kids, they do their driving range, they wash carts.
Yeah. Yep.
They're all crying out for more money.
Yep.
So we've actually flipped that. The ones that are in university, come and work on the maintenance team in the morning. You can wash carts in the afternoon, but there's going to be more shifts available to you by doing these maintenance shifts in the morning. They're loving it. They've been doing the driving range of a morning and washing carts of an afternoon. It gets very monotonous, very boring. All of a sudden, they're out there helping maintain the golf course, cutting greens, bunkers, whatever it is. They're getting more hours. They're getting a bit more exercise. They feel like they're part of a team. They're actually working towards something. And a few of those kids are actually in our elite golf system. If golf doesn't work out for them, this could be a fallback for them. So we're giving them a bit of a taste.
But you got a taste.
They're working as casuals. Check it out. Keep on striving for whatever you're going for.
Yep.
But if you get a sniff of greenkeeping and enjoy it, just know that there's a position here for you.
That's pretty cool.
We're running with 8 or 9. I'm heavy on casuals, don't get me wrong, but we're 8 or 9 casuals, probably making up 3 full-time positions.
Yep.
And then we've got our core team of 7, 8 qualifieds, including a mechanic.
Yep.
So it is tough to get staff in. You just got to look at what are my biggest pinch points? How can I fill those points? And then we build from there. So having that really core team, being able to really support that core team, and then having a rotation of casuals seems to be working for us.
Yep.
Just getting people need to do greenkeeping to understand greenkeeping.
Yep.
And if they like it, there's a position here for you.
So
if you don't, well, you've got another qualification.
Give them a taste.
Give them a taste.
Get them in somehow. So there is a link there, is what you're saying, because you've got some of the kids working on court.
Most of these golf kids, they love being outdoors.
That's what I did.
So if they don't, and let's be honest, like out of all the kids that want to become a pro golfer, it's something like 0.001 actually make the Australian tour.
Yeah, sure.
Let alone actually
going in global,
hit the real tour. They have to have something else there. They can still be in the golf industry, similar to the superintendents that leave being a superintendent. They want to stay in the industry.
Yep.
Well, these kids are still going to be around the industry. They're going to be able to finish at 9:30 on a Wednesday and go and play in the comp. They're still going to get that part of their life. They help me prepare the golf course.
Yep.
They get to play golf. We both get paid.
And I suppose you're allowing flexibility, giving them a taste. They're still looking for their pursuit at the moment.
Yeah, they don't feel locked into anything.
I suppose in a sense, what I hear a lot of people about is they're putting up, we've got an apprenticeship available, and no one's applying.
Yeah.
You're not doing that so much as saying, well, I've got work I need to fill.
Yeah.
There's a few hours here available for you 3 days a week. There's a few for you over there. If you're interested, there's another few hours available for 3 days a week. And it's kind of a hodgepodge.
I'm trying to get one apprentice. Well, how about I break that 38 hours, 42 hours, whatever it's going to be, across 3 casuals.
Yep.
And at the end of summer, one of those kids might actually want to stay on full time. Oh, there's your apprentice.
There you go.
And you've also got coverage for the sick day.
Interesting.
Because you've got more casuals there to be able to call upon. So we can run with higher numbers in summer for that morning period, which gives us a lot more flexibility. And it opens up the net to be able to grab that full-timer.
Okay.
So
that's an interesting way of looking at it. I like that it's outside the box of what we would consider the norm of just throwing an ad up and saying we've got a position to fill.
Yeah.
You're thinking about other ways of doing it, and it's getting you through.
Yeah. I hate interview processes too. You don't know who the person is. You're better off going... Yep, come in, have a crack.
Well, that's the interview, right? Do a few hours, and
within 4 weeks, you're going to figure it out.
You're going to work it out.
If they stay, they're probably going to build into the culture. The culture of your team's going to sort them out pretty quick.
Yep.
So, interviews. I'd rather give them a rake and see how long they stay in that bunker. See how we go. So it's working for us. I don't know if it's going to work for everyone, but it works for us.
No, and that's I'm just thinking outside the box. You've been thinking outside the box, but it's what it seems like for a lot of your career.
Yeah, I didn't realise I was until we sat down and spoke about it. This will be the first time I've actually spoken about my career, really, and actually sitting here thinking about it. It's not normal, my career.
But you have, or more or less, only been in one place. That's an interesting way of looking at it, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can sit here and say, I've been at Lynwood for 15 years, I've gone nowhere, but I've had 4 or 5 different positions.
Yeah, within Lynwood.
And they all give different experiences.
100%. And like I said, I like that you've been able to take what you've learnt from other roles and apply a little bit of that into these roles, and the more recent stuff is working for you out now is back on the course, leading the team on course, and looking at employment ways you can employ and get. One of the big questions is always about labour, and I just thought while we were chatting, I just was curious to see what you might think of it, and certainly what you're doing here is an interesting way of doing it. So, it's very interesting. Good, something that other supers can probably take away if something's not working for them to just try and add up. They might be able to try a different way of doing it. I think that's great. So
just have a crack.
Yeah, sensational. Matt Bailey from Lynwood. Thank you so much for being on the pod, mate. It's John Deere Golf Keeper of the Green segment, first new time around. New superintendent, new greenkeeper we're talking to on the segment, and you have given us something really interesting, mate. Thank you so much for being involved.
No, thank you for finally getting me on.
We've only been talking. I said this to a few people. We've only been talking. You've probably been one of the longest people I've been talking about doing it with. Incidentally, it was with you that I did years ago a little Instagram video, and I think I called it Keeper of the Greens at the time. That's where the idea for this came up. This was before the podcast.
Mate.
So you've instigated this, and here we are.
Do I get a cut of the royalties? Or
something here? I don't know.
Get me a hat.
Mate, thank you so much for being involved. Fantastic guest to have on. I'm sure everyone's enjoyed the conversation. I certainly have. You've even enjoyed your own conversation.
Loved it. It was great.
Thank you so much, mate, and a pleasure to have you on.
Cheers, mate.
And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. What a fantastic guest, a sensational guest Matthew Bailey is on the John Deere Golf Keeper of the Green segment of the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening. That was a real hoot. We had a great time having a yarn there in the green room at Lynwood Golf and Country Club in their clubhouse. And what a fantastic journey and a golf greenkeeping career journey. Golf industry, golf management, I don't even know. We were talking about it afterwards, Matt and I, about his career path. And like he mentioned, having been mostly at the one club, he's been in a number of different roles. And certainly from afar from myself, I can speak to having watched him grown through that period as a superintendent, as a manager, as a team leader, the face of Lynwood, as I called him. I said, "You are Lynwood, mate." It was a really good, enjoyable conversation, and I had a great time bringing that one to you, and I hope you got something out of it, as is always the case. And don't forget to check out the show notes. We've got all links for John Deere Golf in there, and there'll be clickable links along with bits and pieces from this podcast episode that you might be interested in. So make sure you check out the show notes as well. But there you go. It's the first one down for John Deere Golf Keeper of the Greens. I'm so pleased and proud to be able to have this partnership for the podcast for Keeper of the Greens segment moving forward, and we've got 12 months of this. So there's a lot coming. Every couple of weeks, we're going to be bringing a new one out to you, lots of interviews, lots of conversations, and I can let you in on a little secret that the next one I'm bringing to you is going to be somewhere that I've never been before, a state that we've never traveled to before on the podcast. So if you can work out the process of elimination, you'll be able to work out where we're going. And it's going to be a real hoot. So first time in a new state, and I know you're going to love it. So thanks so much to John Deere Golf for being sponsors and being on board for this segment, the Keeper of the Green segment of the podcast. You've got to make sure you check them out wherever you need to get in touch with them. If you're looking for any machinery for golf and turf, head to deere.com.au. That's Deere, D-E-E-R-E, deere.com.au to find out where your local dealer is located. And thank you again to John Deere Golf. Sensational, guys. Thank you very much. You hit them clean, we'll keep them green, and I'll catch up with you very soon.